We can hear you, Ethan. Yep. Thanks.
Do we have that? Is that just? Do we have that weird double mic sound effect thing?
I don't hear it, do you?
Yeah. Probably because I'm closer to the, okay.
Problem with turning off the mics is we won't pick up the YouTube.
Right. No, I mean, the broadcasting part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's try to see if we can just roll with it. Can you do it, Chriso, or no? Turning that down a little bit?
I do hear,
Try that.
Is that a little better, Ethan?
No, I'm just turning Ethan down.
Oh, no.
That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Has to shout.
All right, we'll live with it.
I can just go ahead and mute myself, Chris,
No, it's not you. It's what's happening in the room.
though. No, I meant for the duration.
That's what I was thinking, Ethan. We'll let it go.
All right, this is the planning board meeting for August 3rd, 2023. First item on the agenda, any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we will move on to item 2. Application for amendment on subdivision under chapter 235, subdivision of land. Applicant asking board to approve revisions to a subdivision plan approved on June 1st, 2023. You guys want to
Yes, please.
roll with it?
Yeah.
Mike, just make sure the,
My name is Andrew Hedrick.
If you can hold it close to
Hold it
you.
right up there.
Yeah.
My name is Andrew Hedrick. I'm a civil engineer at Gartley and Dorsey in Camden. And this is Ed Hansen. He is one of the project owners. So we are here for Nordhaven Camden LLC. And we are here to an amendment to the subdivision application. So we are not making any revisions to the plan. The actual recorded subdivision plan is not being revised. What we are doing is we are amending the proposed septic field location. So back on June 1st, a 10-unit subdivision was approved, and we had showed a septic system location in this area here. As we were refining designs, finalizing things, looking at costs, it became aware to us that we had another viable septic location down in the field at the front there as we came in up the road. So here's the access road that we drove up. This is where we parked and walked through. In the large field area, we found a suitable septic location that would allow us to minimize pumping from each of the units. So we're going to utilize a gravity trunk line that runs down through the development. We'll connect each one of those units into it, and it'll minimize the necessity for pumping for that. So it's simply moving that septic field that we have proposed up in this location down to this location. But there's a lot of grade changes and whatnot that are associated with it. So that's why we're here in front of the planning board for you to review that. We have updated the 4 plans in our plan sets that we provided to you that showed any of the septic field. We've updated the erosion control to go around the field now and have Curlex and whatnot for those situations. But that's why we're here. Pretty straightforward. And we did provide you with test pits for showing that there's suitable test pits in that location. And we also provided a full septic system design to the town to review.
and just to be clear, that area is currently open field,
It is, absolutely. It's an open field now and
downhill from the existing house.
exactly. And we're proposing to kind of grade that out gradually and potentially hide it, honestly, with additional berms and whatnot in the future. But it's going to be graded and blend right into that field transition. It'll be flat at the top. You'll know it's a septic field, but we'll kind of blend the grades in to try to match the slope as best as we can.
Will you still do planting along that existing property line?
Yes, that's the plan right now. We're still showing it on the plan where we have the buffer area rather than modify that at some point in time. We are going to leave all the trees in that area. So there's not much that's going to happen to that area. And then we can put the plantings along that section as we go forward here.
Andrew, would you mind for the record stating the plans that you have amended, that you've changed?
Yes, as in the application, we amended right there on the cover page, we amended the final site plan, which is a C1. And that is the one in front of you here. And then the other two plans that actually show the location are the C1 and C2, and those are just the grading plans. And the C4 is the erosion control plan that shows the location, and it just updates the silt fence and the Curlex and the erosion control items, but all those were provided in your packet.
I would add that there's a provision for revisions, like during construction, in the subdivision ordinance, and unfortunately, this type of revision is not one that the code and planning office can approve ourselves. It is a modification of the subdivision, so that's why it had to come to you folks. Septic is one of the criteria that you review, and it's why it's before you.
Did you have a question?
Well, I had,
Is your mic?
and I think the question was answered. My question was going to be the visibility. I mean, I'm great that you were able to find this other location, but visibility from the road, and it sounds like that's been sort of dealt with or taken care of, that it's not super visible from the road. And then my other question was going to be about leaving the buffer, because I think that's more about the construction, the built form than the septic. So that's great.
Thank you. Can you walk me through the sort of test pit information that you provided? I note that when you submitted your original package, there was a supporting letter from a gal that does septic systems, and she had indicated that the test pits indicated to her on the original location that it was suitable for the proposed drain field and so forth. And she also said that test pits across the site indicated that it was suitable. But I didn't see a corresponding letter in your revision package. So I'm not familiar with the
Yeah.
profile that you've got in your package. So help me with that.
Absolutely. So when we originally did the development, when it was originally approved, we actually had a test pit in that location down here. It's right in this location. So we had one that kind of covered that area to begin with. We had explored that before. We knew there were suitable soils down the location. But what we did do when we came back to you is when you actually have to design the septic field, you're required to do, especially a system that size, you have to do multiple test pits. So what we did is she had to conduct the test pits for that area, so we provided them to the board. That's why you do have them. It's in addition to ones you would normally see. Normally you'd see one test pit showing suitable soils, but we gave you all 6 of them to indicate that. But the purpose of the test pit logs is for the designer to review the soil profiles for sizing and to determine where the limiting factor is for elevation out of the ground. So that's what those test pit logs indicate. They are performed by the same person that wrote the letter. She verified we had adequate soils there before. So we just, it's a continuation of that, but it's the same one. And again, the full application for the septic system has been submitted, fully designed. Everything's been submitted to the town.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Natalie did that.
Natalie did that, correct.
Natalie works for their firm, just pointing that out.
I have a question along those lines. I'm curious of the thought process from moving your plan from the primary site now to this alternate site. You mentioned cutting cost was a factor when you started to get involved, and just my limited knowledge of septic systems, and we know lakeside camps and so forth, gravity fed systems are always more preferable to having to pump up. But did you ever consider this originally? What drove you to a more complex system in the initial plan?
We looked at it, knowing the large size of the site. We were trying to find a location that was centrally located. So that's why we were focused up in this field area in the back. We wanted to keep everything close, keep everything uptight, and we were trying to preserve that front field area, quite honestly. We didn't know what the long-term plans were, but we wanted to keep our site compact, keep everything up there. But then as we started looking at, okay, we're going to need a pump for each one of these, and we started going down the list, it became more viable to want to run a solid trunk line down through the site, and then we could feed a system at the lower portion.
Thank you.
Maintaining septic pumps too is a not a great thing to do over the long haul either. So I think it's a great, letting gravity do what gravity does is a much better option than doing pumps.
I can just say, you know, we're in the detailed design phase now on all the civil and the construction, and everything. And some things come to the front when you're doing that. You find that the cost of these things that seemed fine at the schematic level become problematic when they all get priced. So it motivates you to get creative.
Gentlemen, as far as as far as the line to the new proposed site, is that under the road or is it along the road or?
On the septic, the
Where will that main line?
Oh, it's actually going to run adjacent to the existing road that's up there. That existing road is going to be removed ultimately, but it'll be run through the field. But it's proposed to be in that open field along the edge of it right now. So the hope is to leave that road in place for construction is what the thoughts are, and put the line in adjacent to it. And then on the way out of the site, be able to pull that road up and regrade it and revegetate it.
So the,
No removal of any trees or anything from the line?
No, there's no more removal of trees for this proposed development, for any of it.
Okay, thank you.
so the blue outline that I'm looking at on the plan, is that where any line is going through?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the main trunk line. So we've highlighted the area. So this is the main road that drives up here. This green area is where the existing road is. So here's the proposed septic field out at the field location. And then this I highlighted in orange on my plan here just so you can see it. So there's going to be a trunk line that's going to run down through there. So what that is going to be a large 8-inch line that'll run through there, and then each one of the units will feed into that along the way. So they'll have their own tank system to discharge the solids, and then the liquid waste will connect into the trunk line, so that'll then flow downhill. That answer your question?
It did. That's what I was thinking, but I just.
You see the big bubble, and it runs through the whole middle of the site, you know. So, but we just wanted to show you where the line was going to be located, and before we had a lot of development through that area already with pump lines, and you know there's utilities running through there, so that's why there isn't going to be more disturbance, more impact. It's all kind of running in this big area that we had proposed to develop and impact anyways.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Well, is anybody else got any other feedback? Ethan, you all good? Okay.
So I'll make a motion. I understand that perhaps we make two determinations.
Correct.
And so I will make a motion that, as required by Chapter 235, Article 7, the board has reviewed the application to relocate the subsurface wastewater disposal system and any associated changes, and has determined that the proposed revisions have been found to not alter the character of the originally approved plan.
A motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Ethan? Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Don?
Aye?
It's an aye for me. Motion carries. Does that work for you, Gene?
Somebody can't vote.
Oh, because we have everybody here, and so Mark is our alternate.
So you'll have to designate
Well.
either somebody doesn't vote, opts out, and Mark is appointed, or Mark sadly.
Mark is not voting. What, I mean, it's up to you or Ethan. Do you mind, Mark? Okay. So we'll strike Mark's vote from that record. 5 to, yeah.
I was trying to chime in that Mark could have it, but that was on mute.
Mark will have the next one, Ethan.
Yeah, I'm just gonna retreat.
No, you're on a roll.
Okay.
That's what happens if you sit in the left-hand seat.
Okay.
You get made motion making.
Don't be too busy and you fucking doing it all the time.
I'll happily relinquish.
Well, I'll make a motion that the boards determine the proposed amendments to the plan meets all of the approval criteria contained in Chapter 235, Article 8, and 30A MRSA 4404, and finds that the application for an amendment to the North Haven Camden LLC subdivision as represented on the plan prepared by Gartley and Dorsey Engineering and Surveying, as has most recently been submitted and reviewed, can be approved.
Is there a second?
Yep, second.
That. Ethan? It's a yes from Ethan. Appreciate it.
Aye,
Pat?
or yes.
Aye.
Yes.
And that's an aye from me. The motion carries. Amendments are approved.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Good luck.
And we don't need to get a signature on those ones, right? Because we already,
No, it's just an amendment, so.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ed.
So you're gonna bring us the whole entire package? New plans, pictures.
You need a paper copy of the full packet again?
It'd be nice to have it rather than us having to like add this to ones.
Paper copy on your desk?
Yeah.
Yep, we'll make sure you have one.
Perfect, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Item 3 on our agenda is proposed zoning ordinance amendments. 90 Article 8, downtown business districts.
No,
Ye-
Mark can participate.
Mark interpret, yes.
All right, now I guess I'll take the lead on this one. So Shenley and I did Shenley did lots of work on this. As discussed at the last meeting workshop we had, and this is kind of in line with the housing opportunity rules that we've been working on a little bit, that kind of loosens some regulatory restrictions on housing in town. Specifically, I don't know if you've read what's proposed here. And I did print out, and you should have a copy, the first sheet of the B1 zoning ordinance, because that's where the ordinance amendment would be in. It would be at the end of 8.8 B2 C for multifamily. And we would just add I don't know what you call that, a superscript T or something there. And the language would say, the restriction on residential use on a floor at street level shall not apply to structures in the Chestnut Street Historic District or to structures located on lots that lie wholly north of the Megunticook River that have both pedestrian and vehicular access directly onto Washington Street, are located within the B1 district, and are located in the downtown TIF district. Shenley did a good job on this memo. I think it kind of laid it out the best that I think we could. So what this would do, it would allow there are 3 buildings. If you go up Washington Street from Mechanic, from the other side of the bridge, it would apply to the Smokestack building, potentially the Knox Mill condo building where 40 Paper is, and all of the condo units, residential units that are in that building. And I guess technically it could apply to Brimstone Consulting Business, which is the building up, the next one up from condo. And keep in mind too, that this does not mandate or say that you have to have multifamily. This is just adding another use that's allowed. We already allow multifamily in the zone. It just can't be on the first floor. The idea here is we didn't want to have it apply district-wide because we want to maintain commercial, retail, office space, et cetera, on the first floor. And I didn't want it to apply on Mechanic Street, going up Mechanic on the right-hand side, because you have Serendipity, you've got the copy shop, you have the Jack, and then you've got some professional offices up there. I think it's important to maintain those locations or that commercial there on the first floor. Granted, they can have multifamily upstairs, and some of them do. But the Knox Mill building has been a real challenge for a number of years to try to get someone to develop it. The Knox Mill Condo Owners Association have reached out to me since I came here to Camden to see what we could do about trying to facilitate multifamily on that street level. That building's an odd building when you look at it with the street. I don't know how many times Shenley and I walked it trying to determine what street level there, and it all comes out to that one level that sometimes it looks like it's on the second floor, but it's still street level. So this is a provision that would allow resident multifamily on the street level for those locations. It would also apply to the Chestnut Street Historic District as well. And Shenley has a map in front of you there, which we don't have a heck of a lot of good mapping that we were able to overlay on here. But Jeannie came up with this map 1, we called it. The blue dots on your map are properties that are in the B1 and are in the Chestnut Street Historic District. We have a bunch of churches. We have the town green across the street. We've got the post office building. We have a number of other buildings as well. All of those going down Chestnut beyond the post office are single family already. They're residential. They're single family homes, even though they are in the B1. The single family, the prohibition on first floor doesn't apply to single family or two family. It just applies to multifamily. So it's a little quirky that we did that. So the intent here is to free up, give more people an option to do multifamily. The one that I think would benefit from this primarily would be the Montessori school building. And I'm just going to throw it out there. This is up at the corner of Union and Elm. The school district owns that property. There's talk, and I don't want to get too into the weeds on it because I'm not privy to some of what's happening there, but the Montessori school may be going to a different location. I think that's probably out there in the public a little bit already. And the school district is looking for opportunities as well. They're struggling to find staff and teachers. Primarily, the struggle is housing related. So they are looking at options and opportunities for housing. The school district is actually for staff. And this provision could facilitate some housing there as well. So that's why we kind of rolled this into it. It seems to make sense. Again, in the Chestnut Street and even in the B1, you can have in the B1, you can have 1 and 2 family on the first floor. It's just a prohibition on multifamily. So it's just an odd, quirky thing. And just to kind of, support this idea of trying to facilitate more housing opportunities in town for multifamily, we felt like this was a good, appropriate path forward. I've talked to Audra about this at great length, the town manager, and she's a planner by trade as well in training. So she thinks this is totally appropriate as well. And that's why this is a staff recommendation and not someone that is, it's not like a zone change that someone's asking for. It's a staff recommendation. And that's all it does. The hope is to get this to voters in November. I will say that the select board is holding a public hearing on the housing opportunity rules that you guys had already had a public hearing on the affordable housing overlay zone and the density increase requirements that are mandated. So those are going to the select board next Tuesday, and then probably the 2 Tuesdays later, this would go to them as well. And we try to get a package to the voters in November that would at least facilitate, or at least hopefully facilitate, some increased opportunities for housing in town. I think Shenley's memo pointed to a number of reasons and support that. Certainly having a walkable downtown where people are living, it's a vibrant contributes to the vibrancy of the downtown. It's kind of what you want. You don't necessarily want it on the first floor always, certainly at street level, but these properties are, I think, distant enough and unique enough that this ordinance amendment certainly would protect the commercial retail space that we already have, and we want to make sure we continue to have on the first floor in most of our downtown. Does that help? ahead.
Jeremy, are you talking about using the first floor of the Montessori school itself for housing, potential housing?
Right now, there's a prohibition on having first floor housing.
Right,
Right.
but this zoning change would allow for that.
It would allow for that
Okay,
as an option.
If that structure became.
housing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Otherwise, they'd have to figure out how to do something else commercial on the first floor.
Mm.
I will say that, I mean, they're looking at other options that would further entice families or people, employees to come here, and possibly through housing and possibly through daycare kind of options as well. So, I mean, they're thinking outside the box on how to draw people and teachers and staff to the school. Housing is a critical piece. What I've heard is people want to come here, but they're having to look 45-hour, 60 minutes away in order to work here, in order to afford or even find something to live in. So it's really hard.
Just
Yeah, go ahead.
before we get too far into questions, I think we're doing a public hearing.
We are, sorry.
So
Yeah.
before we get questions,
Yep.
I can see Jeannie kind of, that we are doing a formal public hearing on this so that we can,
Yep.
in theory, send it forward. So we'll get questions. But I believe I can state that I'm going to refer to previous meetings for the procedure for public hearings. But that this is a public hearing on the amendment.
Yep. So you'd have to open it up for public comment.
Right. No,
And then
I've.
and do it again.
Procedure.
Oh, perfect.
Handout. That's why
Good
I have this in my.
Good job.
So we'll start. We have heard from Jeremy on what the proposed amendment is and why. I will now open it to public comment. If there's anybody in the public comment who has any questions. Not seeing anybody, we will now go to questions from the board. I had a quick question that I guess this doesn't probably, because of the Chestnut Street, one of those houses near the post office used to be a law office and is now back to being
right.
family. It's a single family residence. If someone would they already be able to do, I guess it doesn't even apply. I was thinking of like if they had a home office or home business and accommodation, but that would probably be that the business would be on the first floor and they would make an apartment out of the second floor. So that
Likely.
wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
But,
And keep in mind that this doesn't prohibit someone from doing an office because it's already B1.
right. No, I'm just, as I was starting to think through it,
Yep.
but Pat, you had a,
No, I was just curious about the Montessori school and that helped clarify what Jeremy talked about.
Yeah, I have a question regarding, much of it makes sense. And maybe I missed this, but why is the town green? Is that the town green that I'm seeing?
Yeah, you're seeing it's just a blue dot that's just showing that that's in the Chestnut Street Historic District.
But that is not one of the,
Technically, it applies to that property, it would apply to a property, but it's a town green and will forever be the town green.
well,
Yeah.
so that is my question
Yeah.
does that,
The intent of the blue dots was just to notify which properties are in the historic district that are B1 and historic
Right.
Chestnut.
but if this change takes place, it
Mhm.
affects that property. And if the town at some point would want to sell the town green to a developer, crazy things happen.
Yeah, I think there's some deed, I think there's a fair amount of deed restrictions.
I think that property is really tied up and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but like that's, the blue dots are sort of, that's the software limitations are any lot that's in that district that you want, that gets a blue dot regardless of what's on it, right?
Yes.
I mean, that includes the post office too.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing that, but that is a building, so it could potentially, but
The town green has so many deed restrictions on it that we would never, ever be able to do anything other than likely a town green. I
Perfect.
mean, it's hard to have someone, it was hard to get picnic tables into the town green. It was.
Try and get a name on the war memorial. I mean, it's,
It's hard.
I just had
So,
to ask.
no, thanks. Thank you.
Lucy, it was a gift, and that gift came with many, many conditions.
Yeah.
I think one was that it always remained.
Town green.
Yeah.
I think there are a few of those kinds of gifts, right?
yeah.
That are,
Library card.
Yeah, there are several in town. The yacht, like,
thank you.
Ethan, any thoughts from on high?
No, I think it's well covered. It's great model, family. Thank you. And I like the wording. I like the inclusion of the other properties because I felt like it was a little targeted. I think it's good to have as many potential spaces for more housing as possible. So I'm all in.
Ethan, just so you know, it was included the last discussion we had. We just didn't talk about it much. Okay.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Oh,
Oh,
just one
go.
quick, oh,
Please.
one quick question. Elm Street, what's the TOC, which is vacant? Town of Camden.
TOC. It was just an abbreviation. Sorry.
What section is that?
Oh, that's the vacant one that was she brought up, the green.
Oh, that's the green.
That is the-
Oh, okay.
The green.
All right, thanks.
It's Elm Street is all it had.
I was just going to comment that I'm supportive of the
Yeah.
code amendment.
Thank you. No, I think it's great.
There's someone in the public, so out there I see on Zoom if
Okay.
you. I
Well,
don't
we were
know.
about to do second
Yep.
round of public comment. So if I will open the second round of public comment. If we do have someone on Zoom who wishes to speak,
Maria, if you'd like to speak, feel free.
can you hide that? There we go. I think you're muted. Or,
Oh, I don't know. Can you hear us, Maria?
She's stuck.
yeah,
Yeah, I got it. I don't have any, I hear support, I think, from the planning board, that's from.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. No other comments. We'll close the second public comment period and bring it back to the board. If there is any other conversation, thoughts, ideas, I mean, I think we talked about it pretty well last at the workshop on it. So if there's no other, I would take a motion to approve sending this to the select board.
With a recommendation to go to voters in November.
Recommendation to pass.
Yep.
yeah. You just say so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any, all right, that carries. 5 to no.
I didn't do it.
Perfect.
Well, we didn't. Oh, on this one he can? Okay.
Oh, okay, then aye.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. That was a great piece of work.
And then we're looking at a next meeting on September 7th. I won't be here. But that is, I'm hoping to have lined up, and I already talked to Granicus, one of the firms. I think I have to double check and see if that was the date I told them or not. I think it was. And they would do a scrub like you guys were asking for. And there's another firm that reached out to me too that would like to do that for you all as well. It would likely be a Zoom one because they're not going to be coming in for that. So we'll do that by a Zoom, probably a Zoom
Great.
workshop, totally, and not in person, if that's okay. It would be easier, I think, for them. I would add, though, that the second firm that reached out to me said he ran the numbers and he identified 450 some short-term rentals in Camden. So when I was saying 250 to 350, he said he's up at 450. That was like a month ago. Clearly, a pretty big number.
Yeah.
I saw in Bangor's looking at, they're going to start regulating them, short-term rentals, and they had like 125 in I know Bangor's not Camden. It's definite. I've worked there for 18 years. It's definitely not Camden.
I feel like every time we turn around, there's another town who is doing it. I mean, it is the way we're all headed, so.
So that would be the plan for that meeting, would be to have one of those firms do show what their programs do and what they can count for us. If that works for you.
Sounds great.
And then I will say that just tying back to the select board meeting really quick that you had with them on peers. So they extended the moratorium 2 weeks ago, but at the same time they extended it for 180 days. But at the same time, they tasked me with putting to voters this November Harbor Committee recommendations. Now, it's a little like wonky to try to get there because they also want to continue the moratorium on new residential piers for certain. So we're kind of in this weird place. So there will be something on the ballot in November on.
We'll approve the height changes and the.
Correct, but
the
that'll
land- the
only.
land attached docks.
What
but
I'm
we're
not-
done yet.
Yes, but what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to change the zoning ordinance. What you guys approved is going to be what goes into the zoning ordinance, but the harbor ordinance is going to be a little different. That's going to focus right now on existing piers and not talk about new piers. It's going to be focused on existing piers. When you have two ordinances that regulate the same thing, the most strict applies. So that's how we're going to handle it for now. But what will go to voters will be floats and raising them for the heights, making them, adaptable in the future. But there will be likely a warrant article, or maybe even in the same article that it does not impact the existing moratorium on new residential piers. Okay, it was a wonky conversation with the select board. It's hard to do what they're asking to do, but I think Bill Kelly and I figured out how to do it, so we'll get it.
If we're having a general discussion, can you update us on what our glide path is for short-term rental discussions and what code amendment package, how that might come together in the weeks and months ahead?
Yeah, I think likely it would be something for June of next year is the hope. That the challenge is we have to have, for the most part, language would be done in March, mid-March. So, I think getting this stuff underway and getting an understanding truly what we have in town and then charting a path forward once we have that is going to have to be focused enough that it gets ordinances drafted for the most part in February. Their language is pretty much done in February. So we're going to have to this fall probably open it up and get some more feedback from the town and get people here and just start talking about it. Otherwise, it would be November. But I'd like to try to get it for June.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jeremy, I believe at our last meeting,
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, I believe it was at our last meeting, you mentioned you received a letter from one of the members of the
Yeah, I
public
didn't
from our
send it
last.
to you yet.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
will.
All right.
Yep. I think you'll find it amusing.
Ethan?
I just definitely wanted to state that I really want to make this June ballot.
I hear you.
And so I just want the board to think about that as we get through this, involving the public is important. And I want to make sure we have those open workshops, et cetera, and the hearings are required. But, I think we've gotten to the point point, and I think we'll find out when we have the next meeting, the number of houses that are into short-term rental market, that we need to act as quickly as possible, while still making sure we act wisely and considering everything. So, I'm going to be keeping the pedal down towards June.
There you go.
And hopefully we can all get behind that.
Sounds good.
I think so.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you all.
You well over there, Ethan?
So,
Enjoy the rest of August.
Oh, yeah.
you get good at it. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.